Do you feel that you can never get stuff done? Are you always forgetting things, struggling to stay organized, struggling to stay on task? Well, then you're in luck, because in this video, I am going to share with you 3 research-backed, science-backed findings about the ADD brain and how you can use that knowledge to be more productive and effective than you ever thought possible. Welcome to Hidden ADD, where I share with you the exact tools, insights, and science-backed strategies that I use to rebuild my life from age 32, where I was broke, divorced, and making barely above minimum wage with undiagnosed ADD, to having a successful Fortune 500 career, being happily remarried, and living a life that I love. If you want to get the updates on the best strategies that I'm providing, smash the subscribe button below. Would love to have you part of the community. And please tell me in the comments if there's other strategies that you've used, or if one of these strategies really resonates with you. I love to hear from you. So with that, let's get into the video. Scientists now believe and have very convincing evidence that ADD is not a behavior disorder, it's actually a brain disorder. So there's been a lot of studies. One of them, published in 2017 in the Lancet Psychiatry, looked at over 3,200 brain scans and found noticeable structural differences between ADD brains and non-ADD brains. And you can see the quote there from Dr. Martine Hugman, the lead author, that the results confirm that people with ADD have differences in their brain structure and suggest it's a disorder of the brain, and we want to really change the stigma around it. So let's get into the 3 facets of the ADD brain, the 3 differences, how it's different. So number 1 is dopamine issues. What scientists say is that there's dysregulation of the dopamine system. So what does that mean? Well, on the bottom of the slide here, you can see Thomas Brown, PhD, talks about that it's difficult to activate themselves, ADHD folks that is, on tasks to get started that are not interesting to them, and sustaining motivation on tasks which the rewards are not imminently available. So, number 1, you gotta find things that you actually are interested in. Look at things you used to really love as a kid. Look at things that you do nights and weekends that other people are like, that's kind of cool that you do that. And the second solution or strategy here for the dopamine issues, you gotta get some help with the stuff that you struggle with. So for me, it's a lot of routine paperwork in my job. It's things like detailed spreadsheets and status reports. For you, it could be other things. Also like booking trips and doing a lot of logistics. Like my mind goes crazy and I can't handle it. So my wife does that stuff, but at some point you're gonna need to find some support or scaffolding to help you with the stuff that you're just not good at or might procrastinate on so much that you just never do. So ADD brain difference number 2, your brain's RAM. So a computer RAM, that's the immediately accessible memory. So in ADHD brains, they tend to have what's called less working memory. So that's a lot of the short-term memory where you store things that you need to remember, you manipulate ideas and data, and you put complex ideas together in your head. Short answer is, if you rely on your memory as an ADDer, you will fail. So let's look at some solutions. Externalize your working memory. You gotta put things in sight if you wanna use them. So for ADDers, Post-it notes, reminders in your phone. You've gotta get stuff out of your memory into the physical world. But if you do that, all of a sudden you can start to operate much more effectively in a neurotypical world. The next strategy is engage with others on complex problems. An example of that would be using a therapist or a coach. In my early 30s, that was when I discovered coaches and I started using coaches. You have all these ideas. Well, when you talk about them and they write them down and they start reflecting back to you what you've heard, you can start to piece together goals and plans and movement. Okay, so the third major thing for ADDers is distractibility issues. Partially that's linked to the dopamine issue that we talked about in the first difference, but it's also linked to the fact that brain research has found both that the blood flow to certain areas of ADD brains is different, as well as the size of certain areas of the ADD brain are smaller. And one such area that they found this is in the frontal lobe region. And that area is where your executive functions live. Your executive functions are the things that help you pay attention, stay on task, remember things, organize, and more. They're kind of like the CEO of your brain. And when you have executive function deficits, those things struggle, and distractibility is a really big one. So let's talk about the 2 distractibility solutions and the final solution, which addresses all of these. You need no choice. You need to carve out undistracted time. The modern world is a cornucopia of distractions. It is geared to distract you at every turn. It's a problem for neurotypical folks. For ADDers, it's fatal. At a minimum, you gotta carve out for yourself an hour of undistracted time in the mornings where you can get work done. So, when you first wake up, you're not checking email. When I go to bed, I have do not disturb mode on so that I don't see any notifications in the morning. Because as soon as one thing comes in, your hamster wheel is gonna be turning in your ADD brain. You can't have that input come in. And the next solution is one called your MVPs, or most valuable priorities. And so most recently, I read this in Darren Hardy's New York Times best-selling book, The Compound Effect. It's been written elsewhere, but basically what that means is that in any day, all you come up with is your top 3, or it could even be 1 or 2, most valuable priorities. So if I did nothing else today, what would make today successful? You have a yardstick for success, and then you get to work on those before you work on other stuff. And then you get to feel successful at the end of the day. So it keeps you focused, it keeps you from getting distracted. And then if you get distracted later in the day, which we all do, you've still gotten your top 3 most valuable priorities done. Okay, and solution number 7, you gotta calm your hyperactive mind. And so there are 4 things that are highly effective at calming your mind that are a lot of the natural remedies for ADD that people do in addition to medication, or sometimes they're effective even on their own. So here are the 4. 1, exercise. Gotta get some of that nervous energy out. It clears your mind. It's good for your body. If you're doing nothing, go for a 5-minute walk. That counts. All you're doing is you're being better than you were last week. 2, you need 8 hours of sleep. It's hard enough to focus when you get 8 hours of sleep. When you don't, I think it's like 5 hours of sleep is something like the equivalent of having a blood alcohol level of 1, which is well over the legal limit, like drunk driving. Without sleep, your brain can't function. And if you have an ADD brain that's special and unique, it needs all the help it can get. 3, eat more protein and less processed carbs. So processed carbs and sugar put your body through a roller coaster. Now, neurotypical folks can handle that. We ADDers, we're already hyperactive inside enough. We need things that bring steadiness to our lives. Protein keeps you full longer. It digests more slowly. It will help. And finally, consider taking on meditation. Here's the simplest meditation that I've ever found, and you can do it in a minute if you've never meditated before. This is a technique that the Navy SEALs use. So we're gonna do this 4x4. So it's called box breathing. And basically what you do is for 4 seconds, you breathe in, you hold, you breathe out, and you hold. And you do that 4 times. So 4 times around the box for 4 seconds at each stage of the box. And that is a way to get started meditating. Notice how you feel afterwards. It's gonna be great. Meditation has been proven to improve the focus areas of the brain. So give it a shot. Those are the solutions. Do you have others? Do any of these really resonate with you? Hit me down below in the comments, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so we can get to know each other better, and I'll see you in the next video.